it.
I like it.
And I'll have to keep an eye. Hi. We've got our friends here.
How well do y'all know each other in this membership? Is it a pretty big?
Well, I can tell you I know all four of these lovely humans very well.
Oh, nice.
Jenny is a past death school alum, and Elle, past school alum, Zeffy, and Pam. We've got the whole hello. We've got the whole crew here. And then other people, it's death doulas who have found us and joined. Some people have just taken a few of our classes. It's just, I don't know. I like it because it's a way for us to keep connecting with each other, huh?
So
I
sweet.
haven't seen Elle's face in like 2 weeks. Our most recent graduate here, and a dear heart and lung friend too. But
So
yeah,
sweet.
this community keeps growing and growing and growing. And it's like I told you, when I taught my first class 15 years ago, the people in my class were my friends. Like, almost felt like I had to pay them to come learn about home funerals. And so I still get so like, wow, people really want to keep coming to these things, and people really care. And it's I'm sure you've seen, Hannah, how much it's grown. I mean, it has grown so fast. Not fast enough, but so fast.
So fast.
And I think we're just moving on up. More places like what you're doing come around, it's going to change really fast. So
It's happening.
it's happening. All right. Well, I'll keep an eye out for more guests, but welcome everybody to our, what month is it? August. Third Thursday tea talk. We're ending the end of the summer here. I'm a little here, I'm a little there. Hannah's probably a little here, a little there too. It's just that season. But we're coming together to do what we love to do, and that's talk about death. Let's talk about community, talking about how we're changing it. And we're really, really happy to have Hannah here with us. I had your whole nice little speech up. Now here we go. Okay. um, I had seen Hannah's name around. This is what I was saying when I came on. I was like, well, it's nice to finally meet you. She is with the Center of Conscious Living and Dying. They're based in Asheville, North Carolina. Do a lot of everything. I mean, really everything. I'm going to have Hannah really explain all the different kind of services, the education, the services that they actually give their community. Hannah herself is also an RN, so she knows all about that part too. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of, I mean, I know that there's really cool things about you that we're going to uncover today, but anything else you want anyone to know?
No, that's great. We'll just do it all organic and whatnot.
All right.
So,
So welcome, Hannah.
I'm so grateful to be here. Really, really and truly. And it's so nice to meet all of you and see some of your faces. Can you remind me, Lauren, just because I didn't take the time to ask you this, how much time do we have to play and talk today?
Oh, if people, this is going to be casual. We always say it's
Cool.
casual. So we can just converse. If people have questions, you can write it in the chat, but we can also leave a little space, like, 10, 15 minutes at the end for people to ask you more questions. So it ends at 1, technically.
Okay.
So we have an hour.
Thank you. I just didn't know. I forgot to do my homework before.
There's no homework. It's just life.
Yeah, so I think Lauren and I were chatting before, and we were just talking about this season in life and how it's, kids are going back to school and what that means for parents, and specifically just marking the cycles of life. And so for some reason, I asked Lauren, I said, could we just start with that? Because it might be in the field, it might be relevant to other people. And I was sharing with Lauren that my dearest friend here just sent her second and youngest child off to college yesterday. And so she's someone who's a real inspiration to me, because she walks in her life, in her waking life, the same way she tends to death and dying. She's also a death doula and educator of many years, and just a really amazing person. Taught me a lot about trauma, and actually co-led the trauma training with me at CCLD, the center in Asheville. And anyway, so she's had a fire to symbolize this crossing, this ceremony for her youngest son and for all of his friends to mark this moment in time. I'm getting emotional too, Lauren. Damn
I
it.
know. It's the
Uh,
season. We
it's a
never
secret.
apologize for crying in our classes. That's one of our
That's
rules.
right.
Can't
It's
apologize for
good.
crying, and show us your pets if they show up on screen.
Cool. They're all around, so I'm sure they'll make an appearance. But so anyway, just I was feeling into how sacred that is and how inspiring that is for me um to hold life as intentionally as we hold death and dying, or wanting to hold death and dying. And something that we do at the center, I guess this is just a segue in that feels natural, is we have an elder council at the Center for Conscious Living and Dying. And it's made up of two elders in this community, and one is named Greg Lathrop. And Greg is a traditional medicine elder in this community who studied with a man named Will Rocking Bear for many years, and basically went up for a vision quest 25 years ago, I think it was, maybe 24 years ago. And if you're not familiar with that, in his tradition, you don't eat and you don't drink for 4 days and 4 nights. And basically, it's a rite of passage, essentially a death simulation, if you will, like the OG kind of death simulation. And you receive messages, and it's a rite of passage in some way. And when Greg was up on the mountain, at this time he was in his 40s, he received a vision of a place um, in the mountains, this home. He actually saw the home where people would spend their last days, and there were a community of people keeping a fire, an actual fire for them to symbolize that crossing and that transition and mark that, hold that space energetically as well as physically and emotionally and spiritually. And so anyway, Greg was looking for this home when he came down off the mountain for years and years and years and couldn't find it. Met Aditi Sethi, the founder of CCLD, many years later. One thing led to the next. All these synchronicities that we don't have to get into, and the long and short of it is now Greg leads a team of fire keepers at CCLD who hold that vision now. So they keep a fire 24/7 when our residents are no longer eating and drinking, to hold that space for them energetically. And the families come and sit by the fire, and the community comes and sits by the fire 24/7 to hold vigil in that way. And so I don't know why I just led with that, but it felt relevant as we were talking about ceremony and seasons. And
I mean, yes. And I was getting emotional because my kids are 13 and 15, and it's not that they're going off to college, but they've left me. Like, they don't want me anymore. And I was saying how like the cycles of life are what matter. That, like, I was saying, if you want to learn anything, watch your children, watch a tree, watch it, like, just sit and witness. Like, that's how we really get to learn. That's how we get to experience. But even those little things, like for her to have, I'm just going to ask, was she a Waldorf mom at all? Because having a fire ceremony sounds very Waldorfy, and that's what we were ourselves.
she was the opposite. She's like a self-made, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, different, but same heart. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And just like forgetting that every day has little ceremonies, and I get to redo my life ceremony. Like, my son is a freshman in high school. Now all of a sudden I'm a freshman in high school again. And I'm like reviewing and reevaluating and going, wow, look at who I am now. Like, how, and he doesn't know that he's doing this for me. And I'm also crying because I'm like, he's going to suffer like I suffered when I was a freshman in high school. All of these things. And it's just life, ceremony, everything is always with us.
Yes.
Always. We just
Yeah.
have to kind of slow down and like creating even the smallest ritual to acknowledge, like, you guys are going through changes anywhere in our life, like acknowledging a shift, acknowledging a change. It
Yes.
like, ooh, it gives me chills because it's so true. It's just like, this is really, really important. And
Mhm.
like, grieving this stage in your children's life is fine and it's good and it should be witnessed. Grieving trees being green right now and knowing in Colorado I'm going to lose it in like 2 months that's valid too. And so right now I celebrate them and I watch them and I go, oh my gosh, look at all the squirrels eating everything and getting apples everywhere. And I love it.
Mhm. Mhm. So good.
So what an
I'm
amazing story for him
mm,
to take such like a sacred ceremony. Again, something that I think that was the thing my mom was like when my son turned 14 and then 15, she's like, we need to find a ceremony. He needs to be initiated. And she's a chaplain and she knows all this stuff.
mhm.
And I said, I think that is something that is so missing is that we
Mm,
don't initiate, we don't witness and say, wow, like, look at this change. Look at this, who you're stepping into. It's like we all deserve little coordinations at
mm,
different points in our life.
yes.
And for some reason, well, I don't want to say for some reason, because I know lots of reasons, but we have found that doing ritual or like having something that's weird. Like
Mhm.
that's why that's woo woo. That's weird. Why would you care? Why would you make a big deal about this? And it's because it is a big deal. Life is a big deal. Everything should be. And when it's not honored and celebrated and ritualized,
Mhm.
is it sacred? I mean,
Mm,
yes, I know that it is. But is it when people just think it's just another thing? It's just
mhm.
another day. And I feel like full circle, that's kind of what happened to Deathcare is we
Yes.
stopped, all these little rituals kind of fell to the wayside. And then by the end, there's nothing there anymore. There wasn't
Mhm.
that different highlights and importances and like just that continuance of what's our story? What's our story? What's our story?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then now when we're at the end, it's just like, and here's a medical situation. They're going to die. We go to a stranger. I always like to point to myself, the funeral director in the suit who's going to do everything. And that's the ritual. And that's
Mhm.
the ceremony. And
Mhm.
it has hurt us tremendously in so many ways. And so I always think starting at death is all it's going to do is reverberate forward. Like when we really start seeing the sacredness at the end, then we're going to start seeing all the sacredness that comes before then. So
Absolutely.
people are always like, why'd you do death? And I'm like, because I love life. And they're like, but that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, actually, what I just told you, if we have sacredness and love for death and
Mhm.
see it as a major event in our life, in their life, then everything that comes before that is sacred too. And so we're going
Mhm.
to start remembering that. And next time around, we're going to make sure that we do those ceremonies and we have those sacred moments.
I love that so much. Everything you said, just mic drop. Nothing more, nothing further to add. I think we can conclude. But
But
the
please
time,
don't mic drop. We have some time.
well, I was just gonna say that for me, the fire, like so much of what you're speaking to is it does slow you down. So
Mhm.
volunteers before they show up to care for someone at the bedside will go to the fire to still and like bring that focus back into presence and into this moment, out of the monkey mind, out of the machine mind that runs so much of our life and our conditioning. And the other thing that it does really palpably is the whole premise of it is that you come to the fire to remember essentially to eat and drink for the one in the bed who can no longer eat and drink for themselves. And as Greg describes it, it's not a metaphorical thing, it's a very real felt thing. And so, what happens in my experience when you come to the fire is you feel our interconnectedness with each other. Like you feel that communal aspect that we are deeply connected, no matter what your beliefs are, is we're connected as humans, we're connected to the elements in the space, to the animals, and the mystical experiences that we've had and the correlation between the resident who's about to cross and leave their body and what's going on in the fire is just you can't it's irrefutable, it's undeniable. And so yeah, just echoing everything you said, it feels so essential to me in this time to slow down and remember the natural rhythms and cycles of life and our connection to life, to each other, and to what connects us rather than what keeps us separate, or the illusion of separateness.
I think that slowing down part is, if any of my past students in here, I will sound like a broken record, but that's probably our biggest hindrance into anything that we do, into community making, into connection with our ancestors, into connection with sacredness, is that we just aren't, we don't slow down. We don't I always tell my kids, they're like, where's my phone? Where's this? I'm like, be bored. Geniuses are bored and they come up with the ideas that change the world. And they're always like, oh, whatever, mom. But at the same time, we're just humans. And I don't think we were supposed to have all this stuff
Mhm.
in our face all the time. I think to remember the humanness of us, which is everything that, we were just talking, you have to slow down. You have to be still. And
Yep.
uh, I'm seeing all these comments in the chats. I almost want to be like, okay, everyone, let's all unmute ourselves. Let's just chit chat. Let's
Yeah.
just make it casual today. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Center for
that's,
Conscious Living and Dying. I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat, Lauren. Um,
oh,
yeah,
yes.
I love that. L too. Um, I think, I mean, if we're amongst death nerds, we all share that love of learning from death. And I think it's just such a gift, to be able to, everything you're describing is why I think we love death care. I'll speak for myself. I won't make a generalization, but when I'm at the bedside, it's like the most intimate, vulnerable, sacred. They have nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. There's no phone. There's nothing to hide behind, right? They're just diving into facing the realness and rawness of life. And so, just to your point, if we can learn from that in every moment and not compartmentalize that, just, when we're at the bedside having these experiences and then we go off and live our life, and plug back in, or just compartmentalize that realization. The more we can blend and integrate that by continuing to slow down, I think that's where the magic happens. And
Yeah.
so it feels like a really exciting time because I think more and more people are living that and finding ways to bring that to their own communities and that's where all the juice is, that's where the juice is that community support. And
That's what I was
so,
just gonna say. And
yeah.
you have to be slow down and not in your own lane, rushing, rushing, rushing to put your hands out and like meet your neighbors and meet your community.
Mhm.
And again, this is going to sound like a broken record, but we say death care is community care. Death care cannot be done by one single person, by one unit, by one entity. It is all of us because it is all of us, right?
Mhm.
All of us will die. All of us need to be there for others that will die. Like it's just this kind of, it just
Mhm.
always has made sense to me. I had
Mhm.
home births too, made sense to me. I never did anything because I was like, well, that seems cool. I was just like, duh, like obviously this makes sense. Like this is just how it feels. And so the community part for me has been the most beautiful to witness, but also probably still one of the biggest struggles that I've had. And I don't know if you want to speak on that, but it's because of that busyness, because of this disconnection, it seems hard to like say, okay, but also let's come together.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So maybe before I launch into that, and I'm sorry, Jenny, I just want to take a moment to read your comment too. Mm.
Hmm. Yes, Jenny. It's
Mm.
slowing down.
Thank you for being there for her and with her. Mhm. Yeah. So the center, for those who don't know, is a nonprofit organization in Swannanoa, which is just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And basically what it is in a nutshell, is it's a home. So it's not a facility. And it's all volunteer run. And it's a place where up to 3 people at a time come to spend their last 2 months or less of life. Um, and so they come to us and we are totally volunteer run. So there are a few of us who are staff, Aditi, the founder, myself, the director of education. We've got a volunteer coordinator, you could say, and then the director of operations. And then we have an extended leadership team as well that's developing. But so everyone else is volunteer. And so we have almost 300 something, I forget the number at this point, volunteers who show up. And so you talk about community, that's a lot of people and a lot of personalities. And so to your point, that's been the brunt of the education. When we started, I've been in it since the beginning. I moved to Asheville just for context to help produce the film The Last Ecstatic Days, which is basically the founding story of CCLD and what catapulted this into being for Aditi. And so I'll put that in the chat or we'll get that information to you somehow. Um,
And she'll be our guest in December. So we will be talking more about the last, or maybe November,
Mm.
one of the burrs.
Yes. One of those.
So yeah, come back for that one because I did want to talk about the movie, but at the same time, I'm like, we'll be doing that again. Like, let's just see
I
where this
won't dive into
community
it.
conversation goes.
That's right. Yeah. So, um, anyway, I don't know where I was going. Oh, the training basically from the beginning. I used to train other people to be death doulas through the Conscious Dying Institute. So I'm very familiar with end of life care training, was a hospice nurse before that. And I was like, this has to be different. Like this has to be this much death and dying and this much community and this much inner excavation and shadow work and trauma work and knowing your stuff so that you're not only not projecting it onto the resident and their families, of course, but also onto each other. Like we have to be a cohesive, clean and clear mirror for one another and environment so that the love is felt, because that's what we're trying to do, is create this paradigm shifting environment that's non-medical. So this is not a medicalized care home. We're just acting as extended family, as if we were caring for your Aunt Jenny, we're acting as a bunch of Jennies, that's our role, is just showing up. I'm not wearing my nursing hat at all. Aditi's not wearing her MD hat. She's a doctor. None of that. So totally holistic. Yeah, we've got 20 different working teams of people bringing their own magic and their own passion. So we've got a healing arts team of energy workers, acupuncturists, massage people, all volunteering their time. We've got a grief team, of people specifically steeped in bereavement and grief support. We've got an expressive arts team, sound healers and musicians and you name it, is like everybody, the whole gamut. And so basically when the residents come in, they pick and choose who they want to support them. And it's really catered to whatever it is they want, as is typical doula care. That's our compass, is what do they want? How do they want to be supported? And then we just arrange ourselves around that, basically. So that's the model. And it's free. The care is free. So they don't pay anything.
Okay, how do I start one of these?
You
Like,
can do it. So that's the education. That's really the
I,
education that we're
yeah,
doing, is basically people are coming to the center, learning how to create their own through our Death Doula program, bringing it back to their communities and like rallying their communities. And the main thing that I haven't been able to share yet is this culture guide training, which is the actual scaffolding that's needed to help this grow and build in a way that's sustainable. And so that's a really important piece of that too, is how to
yes.
keep caring for your people in the living as well as in the dying.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start because now you just kind of explained just the gist of it. And I'm like, yeah, how do we first get this everywhere? I think so. I have a house across this. My house is 100 years old. The house across the street from me is like 115 years old. And it has been abandoned since the 70s. And I'm in Colorado. They don't have the same kind of laws that in California. If this was California, the house would have been gone long ago. But every time I'm just like, why can't we have a community like death house, like a community house where people just come and like the neighbors. So in my head, before you explain, the idea of like where you lived your whole life, what a beautiful thing to be able to die in that area and have the people that know you be able to come in versus going to an assisted living or living somewhere where none of your family is anywhere and it's just you and you have no community because you had a community in your little neighborhood that you lived in, but now you've been taken out of that community. So like everything you were just saying, I was like, okay,
Mhm.
let's figure out how to tell everybody to do this because there's houses everywhere that could be bought and just have these 3 rooms. And so
That's
please
the way.
explain the biggest piece that you're about to talk about.
That's got to be the way, because as we know, the silver tsunami is coming, or is already upon us. The
Already
baby
upon
boomers
us.
are
Yeah.
leaving, and I won't get on the podium, but we all know it's not sustainable. End of life care is really expensive. It's medicalized. We warehouse our elders, blah, blah, blah. All the things you've all heard probably 100 times. And so this Omega Home model is what it's called. It started in the 80s during the AIDS crisis. Basically, it was just people taking care of people. They were like, you don't have anybody, I got you. And it was communities coming together to care for people. So it's not revolutionary. It's been happening for a while. It's just that there's now new awarenesses around it. And the best part is because we're doing it in a way that's non-medical, we don't have to abide by Medicare audits, or like we can skirt around, like anyone can do this. Is what I'm trying to
That's
say. Enough
that's what I want to
willpower.
know is like, because every time I've even brought it up, somebody's like, well, are you going to have like a nurse on call 24/7? And I was like, I don't think you would need to. And then somebody's like, well, yeah, you would have to if you want to do something like that.
You don't
So
have
no.
You don't have to. And it's about, that's what I love so much about it. I'm getting fired up because it's like
Yeah.
taking our power back, into the hands of the people. As someone who's been a part of the medical system and has been a cog in the wheel, it's like, no, this is our birthright and our death right to live and die in this way. And to your point, Lauren, about, the gold standard right now is like most people want to be at home with their loved ones, right?
Mhm.
However, Greg posed the question recently, like now that we've seen what's possible at CCLD, the love, I cannot begin to tell you the love and beauty that I've experienced, even when it's raw and painful and when there's terminal agitation and all the things. It is held in such a sacred way there that I didn't even think it could be possible. And it
Mhm.
transforms, of course, all the volunteers' lives. So when I think about that now, I'm like, I don't even want to go to my family. Screw that.
Yeah,
Like they are unconscious. They will not they will not advocate for me in the way I want. They will
that's so
project
true
all their
too.
stuff onto me, like I'll have to caretake their emotions. So now I've got this community of people who are really present and like really walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's the magic to me. It's like, what if we can create that? The conscious living piece has always been the part that enlivens me. How can we use this awareness to really live and take care of ourselves and each other again?
And I'm just everything. I just want to like keep saying more and more things. I think we might have to do like a part two because there's only 30 minutes, and in my head, I'm like, I have about 2 hours worth of questions to ask you right now. Um, so I'll just say really quick, like that idea of dying at your home surrounded by your family, like that's the ideal, right? But in reality, it's the same thing I tell people all the time. The nuclear family barely exists. By a thread does it exist. As a funeral director, I had to constantly see the family traumas that arose when the death and grief came up. So why would you really want to die in that kind of space necessarily if you could have this kind of thing that is still community based? You're not going off into the space that isn't held and loved and sterile, and somebody's poking you, making sure you're still alive, or, that kind of thing versus, yeah, it just sounds dreamy. So, how, I don't even know where to start. That's why I'm just like wrote all these notes, other than like, I wrote, how do I build this? That was like the first thing I wrote underneath. And I was like, that's not a really good question, Lauren. Um, and I love that there's so many volunteers, but like, really, how can something like this work and be sustainable and brought everywhere? Because I know it can work. And I know
Yeah.
that this is what people want and what they need. And they just don't know it because they haven't ever seen it. And it's just goes again back to ritual and ceremony. I've done home funerals now, and every time I did one for a 21-year-old guy, and his
Mhm.
friends in their head before they came were like, this is creepy, this is scary. After 2 days of doing these ceremonies with him and drumming all night, they didn't want to let him go. The concept of death had completely changed for them. And I just thought, like, what if everyone whose best friend was killed in a drunk driving accident had this
Totally.
experience versus
Totally.
that? So
Yes.
just these tiny little things are going to change. It's a ripple. I mean, it's
Totally.
so to
Totally.
have those 300 volunteers, I was like, that's a huge ripple. George
Yeah.
says hi.
What's his name?
George.
Hi, George.
He's always
Yeah,
in here.
I love that because that's very much, some people are like, oh, you only care for three people. That's not going to do anything. But it's we see it as like it's a model. It's a place where people come and basically they're inspired. They feel it, they see it everywhere, and then they take it back and become those torchbearers in their own community. So it's really not about like the quantity. It's just this is possible. We can all do this. And you can do it in a way that your community and in an inner city might not have the Cherokee elder council, like that might not fit. Everybody's got their own vibe. This isn't saying this is the way. This is just a way, and make it your own. Just make it your own. But the thing that I personally believe should be the foundation is love. It's basically embedding love over fear into all the culture. So all the learning is based in you can't get it wrong. like unlearning a lot of stuff around fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, not being enough. It's basically all the education is about self-care. It's like a personal healing journey more than anything else. And that can be taken anywhere and felt anywhere. So
Yeah.
that's the educational piece. And then in terms of the brick and mortar, you gotta get a home or use your own home even. Aditi for a time was like, maybe I'll use my own house. And then someone just generously said, let me help you figure something else out. But anyone can use any home. And what you're doing already is building this. So the more we spread the message about that this exists, the more communities come together to rally and talk about why this matters, which is what you've been doing for years. So you've already been building that ripple. And there's so many pockets of us all over that have been building that ripple for years and years. So it's there. Like we're laying the scaffolding now, I think. And so basically, if you have a community of people who care and are willing to show up, that's all you need.
Yeah.
We didn't start with 300 volunteers. We started with 20, 20 people who were interested in like coming to our death cafes, basically, coming to, I shouldn't say that. We're very blessed. It's a hub for people who are interested in this, probably not unlike where you are in Colorado, but
Yeah. And
it
you're
didn't
getting
start
two
this
more of our best deathies soon. So congratulations.
well. Yeah, we'll share. But so that's really all it is a willingness, it's community, and then a place to actually do it. Aditi would laugh because I'm oversimplifying it. Like she had to do the 501(c)(3) paperwork
That's
and
what
all
I was
that.
gonna say, but
But
there's like a nonprofit part and like,
nonprofit, but you don't need to go that route.
do
You don't
you
need.
work, um, do you work, so, okay, so no medical, all volunteer run. Does hospice come there or is families just like, no, this
Good
is all
question.
like natural alone birth, no midwife?
Yes, exactly. Great question. Everyone who comes to us has to be on receiving hospice support. That's not to
Okay.
say they need medication or anything like that, but they need to be under the umbrella of hospice because we're not, like for a
Yeah.
liability purpose. And because it's helpful and useful for most of them to receive that level of care. Yeah.
So you work with the hospices and they just will come and
They
do their
come and
thing.
like as if it's any other home that they're visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they love coming to us. They come and sit at the fire and process. They're like, I don't want to leave. Lauren and I were talking about that too. We have these care circles, they're called. So each week all the volunteers come together and share and debrief what it brought up in them this past week, caring for this person or these people. Yeah, I could go on and on about that, but that's the most healing space ever because it's unearthing and releasing a lot of stored trauma that we've stuffed down. And that's that maintenance therapy that I'm talking about. Like the training cracks people open and opens this healing journey in many ways. And the community is so enriching and all the events we have. But without those circles like that, it's not integrated. You need those. So that would be the
That's
third
the
ingredient.
exact word I was going to say. It sounds like we need some good integration, which is
Yes.
why I think as soon as you said that, I said, I think that is why so many people walked away from death for
Mhm.
so long because they didn't have the community and they didn't have the integration. So they just carried it all and said, I'd rather not.
Mhm.
I'm going to keep giving this to strangers that I'd rather not because we're not supposed to do it alone.
Exactly. So
We
so think
need
about
each other.
what comes up in those circles is what you're talking about. Those are generations of that. So we're
Yeah.
not only processing like what this resident last week brought up in us and how they reminded us of mom and my grief around mom or whatever, but we're processing ancestral, like deep, deep human grief beyond ancestral. It's a lot that we're
Yeah.
all doing the labor of. And it's hard and it's beautiful.
Yeah. I was just going to say thank you for doing the labor because I do truly believe that energetically, when people are doing this integration for us, uh, it does affect all of us and all of our ancestors, whether they realize it or not. Like that's another soapbox that I get on in death school all the time is that when we go back and do that healing, we're doing the healing for the future too. And like,
Definitely.
it's such crucial work to do because if we don't do it, if we just say, oh, look at this little beautiful thing we did, clap, 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 and then leave, then we're not doing the full circle work. Oh, there I go again, back to that whole full circle and the cycles and that kind of thing. Like none of it ever has begun and none of it ever ends. So when you
Totally.
look at like the work that you're doing now, you're doing the work that your great 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 grandma did with her hands too, and that your great 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 grandchild someday might do, or, not necessarily grandchild, but some relative.
Totally.
And when we heal the parts of us in that moment that we know aren't even ours, we're
Mhm.
healing it, and we're healing it forward too. So I don't know who in your group was like, oh, we have to have this integration part, but that I think is probably what will make what you guys do sustainable long
Mhm.
term. Because
Totally.
if not, like I said, is I never think in my moment that people were just like, ugh, I don't care anymore. We're just going to institutionalize everything. I
Mhm.
think what happened was we started having cracks in our community and ritual and support and ceremony. And so when you're alone in these spaces, they can be sacred, they can be beautiful. And then you're alone in that space and you're alone in that understanding, and you don't have those people. So you, you can't expect humans to human without other humans. And I think that that's the biggest thing that we're having to do, is like that unraveling part. And then the remembering. It's like this dance between the two of letting go of whatever stories and thoughts we've told ourselves of this is how we have to do it. And then
Mhm.
slowly, as we unravel that, we're having space for the communities to come back together and the stories to be told again.
So, yeah. And
I
it's
want
just,
to come out there. Do you have summer camps?
yes, come visit.
Death
Come
doula summer camps?
visit. We're gonna look, interestingly enough, because right now the program is set up where it's like 8 weeks of online, then people come for a 3-day in-person retreat, and then they have an apprenticeship at the bedside. And we're looking, because we get so many inquiries about, I just want to do the apprenticeship. Like, I've done death doula programs, I just want so we're trying to figure out how to do that in the future. But again, trying to slow down. We've grown so much in 2 years or 2.5 years, whatever it's been, that right now we're having to honor the pause, because I think we got so excited, everyone got so excited, and we're like, oh my God, there's 4 of us wearing 80 different hats, and honestly got really burnt out because we weren't practicing what we preach about our own self-care and slowing down. So we're in this season of trying to
Yeah.
slow and bring it back in a little bit, to
I can
remember. Like you
understand when
said,
people got so excited though. That's why I'm like, can I come? Can I sign up? What classes do you have?
people volunteer like 40 hours a week sometimes, and they've got kids and they've got jobs. Like the passion people are showing up with, and
Mhm.
not just like for a month, like for 2 years. They're family. Like we are have each other's backs hard. It's a thing of beauty. And it's what you talked about, is that remembering. It's the remembering of like, oh, this matters. This
Mhm.
matters more than all the other stuff that I was telling myself mattered. And to
Mhm.
have that touchstone every day where that's reflected not just with you within your own life, being a death walker or death worker or whatever you call yourself, but to have that community mirroring that to you constantly of, this is what matters. We're in this together. Love is what matters.
And what freedom to truly live when you have that, when you
Mm.
know that. I mean,
Totally.
that's when you're alive, is when you
Totally.
remember what really matters. And like, again, this whole thing is making me so emotional in the best way. I'm like coming to life. I was like, yes, yes, all of it. Um, yeah, it's just it's so, again, I always want to say just like, well, yeah, obviously. Like, doesn't that make sense when you say it out loud? But we don't, because we haven't slowed down enough. And then when we really think about it, so I love all of you for being here, because you all
Thanks.
slowed down enough to come today. And you all want to bring this into your community. You wouldn't have signed up to be in Deathfolx in this community group if you didn't. So we have about 20 minutes left or so. And I see that there's lots of comments and chats, and I would easily talk to Hannah alone for a day or two and plan my whole future with her.
I would
So
love that. Just saying.
if I haven't really looked at the chat at all, but if anybody has any questions, you want to put your little hand icon up. Um, I can see some in here.
And I'll put the website into it, ccld.community.
Okay, so Kat, it says you volunteered in a place like this. So there's about 100-ish homes in the United States. I know that there's one, again, I guess I don't know enough, because I have known of one, but there's a nurse that comes. And so I figured there must be some sort of like medical aspect to it. And so with a 501c3, does that, and you said most people are volunteers, do the people who come there have to pay too? Or is it through, like, because insurance can't pay for it because you're not in that umbrella, which is the umbrella I never want to get under ever, but also it's America, and like end of life death care has become so medical that they're like, you have to have this umbrella or what you're doing is illegal, which obviously it's not. Like Jenny caring for her aunt, not illegal. You caring for everybody that comes through that facility, not illegal. I shouldn't call it a facility. Gross. Ugh.
Okay.
Beautiful, loving space.
Yes.
So how do you, like,
How do
where do
we
you, yeah.
financially, we
Mhm.
are all donation run. So people are just really moved and donate, and we have, I think, close to 100% don't member giving, meaning all our volunteers donate, even if it's $1 a year. So there's some like
Wow.
reciprocity in that way of, and some donate way more than $1 a year. And then the
Yeah.
other thing is the doula program. The education is the only thing that brings in money and helps
Mhm.
sustain the vision. So, but everything else is free, you know. And then we do have, we do offer, people do lie in honor with us. Like we have home funerals, and then often the families will donate from that because they're so moved by that experience. So it's a lot of donation, a lot of community fundraising events, a
Mhm.
lot of music, there's a lot of life that happens there. We have a beautiful event space right next door called the Lighthouse. It's a whole other story, but anyway, yeah, so we have a lot of conscious living events and workshops and things that bring in money too. Yeah,
Uh,
Hopewell House I've heard about, Jenny.
let's see. So yeah, Christy has an interesting question. How do you choose who gets, there's only 3 beds. How does that work?
Yes, great question. We're having the more we people hear about us, the more we're having to hone that process. In the beginning, it was like anyone can come.
Yeah.
Now, so it's always been you have to have 2 months or less prognosis to come to us because otherwise you'd care for people for 4 months. It's just
Yeah.
not realistic. Um, and then now it's based on also severity of need and socioeconomic status, a variety of factors like how basically the less support a person has, the higher they rise to the top of the list,
Mm.
as well as how imminent they are. So if someone's got a week left of life, we bump them to the top of coming in. Whereas if someone's has 2 months left to live, maybe we wait a couple weeks, prioritize that way.
How has, I'm now going to sound like a funeral director. How has the local government responded to this? Does the coroner's office have to be notified and
Mhm.
that kind of thing each time? That would be
Yes,
the only thing that I could see as being like those little
sticky.
things where people don't understand it. And so they're going to try and like say you're doing it wrong.
Right. They've been pretty amenable. I think at this point it was precarious in the beginning because they were like, what is happening over there? What is that weird place? And now they're like, oh, you guys are cool. Like we trust you.
Nice.
We're established enough where there's been that trust and that rapport. And but yeah, we still have to call the families typically, thankfully we've had a lot of family involvement. And so the families still for the most part handle um we support them in after death care if they're wanting that, a ritual bath and anointing and home funeral and things like that. And then they typically um, take care of the disposition themselves and have had all that paperwork and those conversations beforehand. So it's pretty smooth. We haven't had many hiccups yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what my one thing was, like the laws. Like
Mhm.
we had a situation where a coroner like tried to tell the family that he was going to call the police on them because he said that they wanted to have a home funeral here in Colorado, and it's such a thing, and that's traumatic, as you know. Nobody wants to go through that. Um but with the pre-planning and all that, so like what happens when they, I guess that's what I'm getting to, is what happens when they die? Do you guys, are all the, is one of the rules that all funeral arrangements must have been made beforehand? Do you have programs, since some of these people coming in may not have, the socioeconomic fees needs to be able to have a water cremation or a natural burial? How does that work? That's,
Yeah.
I guess, the question. People who come to you who may not have anything or much, what happens after?
Great question. We've at this point, families have been able to cover that themselves,
Okay.
and for volunteers who naturally get really attached to people, they will donate, to help cover those costs to the
Yep.
point where we've had to be like, it's okay, we can use some of our money to pay for, like, if anyone needs a cream that's not covered by their insurance through hospice, volunteers
Yeah.
are like, I'll go pick it up. It's like, it's okay, guys, we can
Oh,
tap into something here. People just really care. So it's not been an issue yet for us in terms of the finances and helping people feel supported. We
okay.
still call, like, say it's time of death. We depending, we've had some residents who are like, I'm good. Don't believe in God. Put me in the dirt. I don't want a home funeral. I don't want y'all doing an
Yeah.
anointing for me. Like, just, they don't want that. So we would call hospice. Typically we invite families to at least be with the body for an hour. Just like, there's nothing to do. Let's
Yeah.
just be. And,
Mhm.
and then eventually hospice comes and pronounces, and then they move forward with that process of the coroner being
Yeah.
involved in transport and all that, or donating the body to science. We've had a couple of organ donation experiences lately too. So,
Mhm.
but most of the people we've cared for have wanted and received a home funeral with us, in which case they stay for up to 3 days typically with us. And it's like a really slow, relaxed process. We have a whole after death care team that
Oh,
comes and is initiated. Like, there's an on-call person. So when they cross, the team comes, and like one of them or two of them sets up the parlor. And then the other ones actually do the anointing and the bathing. And because it's a different skill set. Like, some people don't want to do that part, but they're happy to set up
yeah.
the space, so
Yeah.
so that's sort of how that part has worked so far.
So you have a separate area within the home for the
Yeah,
home funeral area, home vigils.
yeah, yeah.
You
Uh,
guys, don't you just love her and love everything that this whole community is creating together? This is, I don't know. I guess I didn't do enough homework either before coming in because I was like, oh yeah, Last Ecstatic Days. I know that. Oh yeah, they do some teaching, and now you're telling me all this stuff, and I was thank goodness that there are people out there doing this. And you just keep reminding me, like, we want to do this. Like, we want to be in service to other people,
yes.
even if it's people who don't think that they do. It's just because they don't know. They don't know how to. They haven't been in community. They haven't felt held themselves within community. So it's just like, again, like everything that this 3-bed facility is doing is so much huger than 3 beds. I mean, I can't even
Yes, it's
comprehend right now.
totally true. We had the main thing, and interrupt me if you need us to move to more questions. Oh, Jenny, I just saw your questions too. Um, Yeah, I'll circle back to those. We just to speak to that, like, some of the volunteers, one of them came up to me recently and he was like, when I first came here, I was the Scrooge and I was so mean to you and my heart was very closed. And now I'm like the Grinch. It's grown 200 sizes. He's just like this, everyone melts, like, to see the progression. And it's because they're tapping into what you're talking about, like what it means to be held while we're holding and how inherent that is to us as humans. And it feels really good. It's warm and fuzzy. And just to bring into the space, and Aditi will likely share this with you, but her dad crossed over recently. He had a
Oh,
traumatic accident. It was totally unexpected. And he was intubated, and they extubated him, unsure if he would survive. And he was stable enough. So he was able to come to the center. This was 2 weeks ago, very recent. And
oh,
so he came to the center and basically received the care that, his daughter had dreamt of for years and years and years, and her whole family flew in from all over the country. And it was a beautiful full circle moment, to speak to full circles of them seeing, because there are a lot of medical folks in her family. Her dad was a really esteemed neurologist, and I don't think they ever fully felt and understood what was happening there. And so to see on their faces, like, oh, like something clicked into place. They're like, we get it now. And so to have him there while she's chanting to him, and we have a choir, the CCLD choir came in and sang to him, who's a beloved musician as well. To see all the family receiving these pieces and parts of this support, to see them, um, to see people in their family feel uncomfortable with the tears, but then to receive what we all offer so beautifully in terms of like, I'm not afraid of your wet face, like let it rock, to be held in that way. It was just, you could see them transform. And then for his home funeral, and he was there, I think just about, I don't know, 40 hours. It was shorter than typical, but I've never seen community come together to grieve and wail and celebrate like they did for his life. His name is Kapil Sethi, and woo, it was a thing of beauty. It was such a thing of beauty. People playing music nonstop, all the kiddos running around, which we see often, but for it to be Aditi's family was like really brought it close to home, because it's like our dad. It's our family. And so it was something, I don't know why I just popped in to share that, but it's clicking. It's really clicking for people in ways that is a beautiful thing.
Like, I can't, I don't know if I can talk. Okay, that's a lot. Wow, I did not know. And you just
Yeah.
never know. That's the thing with death. You never know. And what an absolutely horrible gift that she was able to show her family and what they got to have in that space, and what a gift for her to be seen while also grieving for the first time. Like,
Yes, to be
my
received,
family knows what I do, but they don't know what I do.
heard, so
and
heard.
and to just be seen and heard, and then in that grief space, like, ugh,
Mm,
what a beautiful. It's not like what any of us are like, "Ah, can't, when my mom dies, I'm going to give her this." Like, nobody talks like that or thinks like that, but we should, because it will happen. And so to
yeah.
at least know what we could
Mhm,
do, and
mm,
just to have that space, because like, as soon as you were like, it was an accident and he was intubated, and I was just like thinking like death traumas, like one after the other. And yeah, all that was trauma, but then you ended it with this like, and here's a safe space for you to land. And
mm,
that's what we're not giving anybody for the most part right now.
mhm,
I'm like, oh, home funerals are, everyone's having home hospice. Everything's like going great compared to 20 years ago when I started as a funeral director. But that's still maybe only like 2%,
mm,
3% of our population who are getting to have these kinds of deaths. Again,
mhm,
I'm going to go my full circle, because they had that after his death versus just the trauma of what happened to him. What will their life look like after that?
yes.
Like, how will they will be able to live in a different way than they would have if he had died and that was it and they had a funeral,
Mhm.
right? And how can you ever put that on paper, and how can you share that to people other than them experiencing it?
That's it. That's just it. It's such a felt experience. It's
And
such
so
a
that's
felt experience.
what we have to do, is create those spaces for people to come and have those experiences so that they can tell other people, and then other people go, well, I want to build that space for people because I know people who needed that.
Hmm.
We're
And you're
doing
doing
it.
it just in this, and you can all do this, and you're already doing it, I'm sure, just creating those spaces where you just come together and have tea
Yeah.
and talk, even if it's not about death, just, well, how is your world today? Like, I care for you. How
Mhm.
are you? Let me love you in our living too.
Yeah.
Um,
We are all alive, every single one of us in this room right now. We are currently living. How lucky. And so,
mm,
what are you going to do with this day? What are you going to do with this life? And
truly.
tomorrow, later this afternoon, who knows? We like doing this work, being a funeral director. I didn't know people as well. So, I didn't know like what their life was like. But now working in this community, if you've taken death school, I can tell you every death school session, somebody loses a loved one. Somebody dies in that 6 weeks, or shortly after one of our classes, somebody has somebody close to them die unexpectedly. And that's the thing, is that it's never unexpected, even though it is. And just being in that conscious space of like, but I'm alive right now. And what can I do while I'm alive? Because I don't know. I don't really know anything. I just know that I'm here, that I have love, that I can hold space for love to be, and that I can teach people to do it too. Like, that's what else can we really do but continue to love each other and continue to make community for each other. And that's what I hope to do until I die, whenever that day is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to witness you doing it and to be able to weave together in this way. Honestly, I love these moments.
Me
I
too.
love- Um,
Okay, we have about 5 more minutes. I'm gonna look here again.
say, should I answer? I can speak to a couple of these. Jenny asked how long our average time is with people, and I was saying about 7 to 10 days on average, I would say.
Okay.
And then, do you stay at capacity? Yes, we do. In the beginning, it was sort of stop and go because word wasn't out. We were sort of doing it underground. And now that word is out, we're pretty much full. We've had to, again, in the process of slowing down and honing what we're doing, we've had to sometimes keep it at two just to not overwhelm volunteers because of so much of what we do is the conscious living piece. It sort of got distracted or like it was basically, yeah, it's a long story. We had to do renovations to where we care for the residents. And so for a while, we weren't caring for anybody. And we were doing all these teams and the conscious living piece and the education. And then all of a sudden, we were caring for people, and everyone was already like off in these other spaces. And so we had to like recalibrate, I guess you could say. But now we're pretty much at capacity. Um, and then you asked about the financials, Jenny. To be honest, because like I mentioned, we do so much of the living piece and there's so much else that we're doing, like beekeeping, and it's just like it's a whole thing. It's more than most of these other Omega homes that are really focused and like keeping it simple. So I wouldn't say it's an accurate, like whatever our financials are is not going to be representative of other Omega homes just because of the vision is different.
Mhm.
Um, and to be honest, I don't know. I purposefully don't get involved in that piece. Thank you, Lord. Less and less am I looking at the financials. So, but Sherry Kay is our resident and volunteer services director. And you can get in touch with her at Sherry at ccld.community. And she's the one who is sort of like our Omega Home rep. Like she goes to all the Omega Home conferences and is really dialed into that network. And so she'd be happy, I'm sure, to connect you with other resources.
Would you mind putting her email in the chat
Sure.
too?
Yeah, Sherry, if you're watching this, I was gonna
You're
ask,
about to
does
get a whole
Sherry
bunch of
spell her
emails,
name?
Sherry.
She's gonna be thrilled.
Okay, so it looks like we had another question here. I thought maybe,
Oh, grief support. That's a good one.
yeah, that Jonathan
Around,
wrote.
yeah, around after residents cross. We do provide support. We have a team of grief tenders, they call themselves. And so someone comes in and before the resident even comes to us, typically, if we can, if it's not super short notice, they'll come and establish that relationship beforehand. That's another team we have. So we have this community guidance and support team, they're called. So they go into people's homes in the community and provide care to the extent that they can, because we can only care for up to 3 people. So sometimes that looks like physical care and, death doula support. Sometimes that looks like more counsel, more specifically like advocacy and shepherding through the healthcare system, those kinds of things. Or sometimes it's more death doula support. And grief tenders are a part of that, to answer your question, Jonathan. So we've got people who cultivate those relationships before, during, and then after someone crosses, they continue that relationship with the family and check in. I want to say it's like 2 to 3 times a month right after they cross, and then 2 times a month. There's some like frequency that they do that with, but even that is just so that we can have a system. It's very organic and very much based on like, is the person wanting and needing that support? Similar to doula work, like we don't teach boundaries in the same way we would if you were a nurse, right? It's like if
Mhm.
you have that relationship with somebody and they have it for you, be there for each other. Like go to lunch with each other. We're not going to say you can meet them twice and that's enough. Like if it's feeling good, we always practice moment to moment consent. So like checking in with each other along the way. And if it's still good for everybody, then they can keep going for as long as that they need to.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. The boundaries part is always hard when it's heart-centered work and you're like, well, no, you can cry. Like you're allowed
Mhm.
to cry with them. I'm not a funeral director right now. I'm not trying to be a
Totally.
professional. I'm just here with you and sharing this space. So
Yeah, as long as it's feeling healthy. And I think it's so like the thing we're finding out as we're creating this new way for ourselves is that it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. So it really does come down to that awareness, that self-awareness of, and that's a lot of our training is like, am I making decisions from guilt and shame? Like, am I disembodied when I'm feeling this and doing this out of obligation? Or do I really, is this a full yes for me? And same with the resident family, like really tuning into the field, that's why we do all that inner excavating work. So we can try and see as clearly as possible and really check in with each other to create a safe enough environment.
Dying know what to do. That's another thing I used to always tell families. It's just like the birthing woman, her body knows what to do. The dying person, they also know what to do. So how can we take care of the environment that's around them? I love Ram Dass talked about it actually, about how when somebody is sleeping, quote unquote, sleeping to us, this actively dying person, there's universes going on inside their brain. So us being there in stillness and silence, we're not doing anything. We're literally holding space for a whole universe to unfold from someone. But we live in a society that's like, do this, busy, busy. You have to always be doing something. And sometimes, most of the time, it's just being there. And that is something that seems so weird that we have to be untaught to just be open. And
Yes.
I love that you guys see that and acknowledge it and are doing it. So glad you came and joined us today. It's already 1 o'clock. Told you.
That's crazy.
Probably could do another like
That's
forever.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Lauren,
but
thank you so much. And thank all of you for showing up and for your questions and for having me in your little bubble. It's very
yeah.
sweet.
Oh, I'm so glad our bubbles collided finally. And I'm
Thank you.
excited to learn more and do more with you in the future.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. A
No,
stranger.
definitely won't be. And thank you everyone for being here with us. As always, it's wonderful. And we will see you again next month, same time.
I hope
Bye.
to touch with y'all. See you soon, I hope, somewhere, some way, somehow.
We'll come to Asheville.